There is going to be a ton of speculation this winter about the landing spots for Kyle Tucker and Cody Bellinger. Now, most Yankees insiders expect the Yankees to be aggressive to try and bring back Cody Bellinger, who had a really good year and was a really good fit for the Yankees. However, Kyle Tucker is a very intriguing guy. He had a higher OPS, he walks more than he strikes out, he's got massive power, and he's younger than Cody Bellinger. Now, both of these guys are expected to command big contracts, and I wouldn't expect this to happen for a while. It's going to take some time to play out. This has got me thinking a little bit about the 2008 winter, in which CC Sabathia, Mark Teixeira, and AJ Burnett were all big-time free agents, and the thought was that the Yankees would try and get 2 out of the 3, with the priority being CC Sabathia and probably AJ Burnett as a solid addition to the rotation. But it came as a total surprise in December when the Yankees locked up Mark Teixeira. And you know what? The Yankees celebrated the next October. That was a very Georgian move for Hal Steinbrenner. So in this video, I want to play back a couple of clips. We had a conversation with Andy Martino, who covers the Yankees for SNY, and he is a strong believer that the Yankees should bring back Cody Bellinger. I know that Joel Sherman feels the same way. I haven't spoken with him yet, but on his podcast, he spoke a lot about how Bellinger is the perfect fit. And we're going to talk to Ryan Garcia. I had a long conversation with him about Bellinger versus Tucker, and he provides the case for Kyle Tucker. So we're going to play both of those. And in the middle, I'm going to kind of ponder whether or not the Yankees could get both. So this is a little bit of a clip show for the winter, but I wanted to put all of this stuff in one place so you can enjoy, and because this is something that's going to take a while to play out. So I thought it'd be nice to have everything in one spot.
Just wanted to talk, that's all.
All right, let's begin with my conversation with Andy Martino. He makes the case that the Yankees should bring back Cody Bellinger. How are we looking at this winter? Do you think the Yankees are going to be aggressive in trying to bring back Cody Bellinger, or do you think that they're going to maybe try and get a little bit younger and go for the bigger star, who is Kyle Tucker?
I know they want Bellinger. That doesn't preclude necessarily them wanting to consider a Tucker as well. But I will say this, Derek, that I don't think they're going to have sign both, but I don't think it's at this point this early. And I want to stress, we're talking at a time when the Yankees haven't had their pro scouting meetings yet, which is the beginning of every offseason, which is when they really kind of formulate their plan for free agency. I mean, they've had meetings internally on free agents since probably August, September, as per normal. But when they really set the course for an offseason is the pro scouting meeting. So until they have that, I feel like I can't really ask my sources definitively, who do you like, Tucker or Bellinger? Because they haven't discussed that yet. So I want to put that out there for every kind of topic that we hit in one way, shape, or form. They haven't had those scouting meetings yet. Having said that, Bellinger is the absolute perfect ideal of the good ways in which the Yankees have remade themselves over the past couple of years. You know, Omar Minaya, who's not the only person that deserves credit for this, but has come in and has really been pounding the table with Brian Cashman and the rest of the front office about getting more athletic. And, you know, long gone are the days when we're watching Gleyber Torres throw to Luke Voigt in the infield, or we're watching Stanton in the outfield for the most part, or, you know, they've really become a team of better athletes, which is where the game is going more broadly, and something that Omar personally has stressed with the Yankees. They became better by losing Soto, strangely enough, and part of that is because of the athleticism and the defense, all of which is a rather long-winded way to say that Cody Bellinger fits them absolutely perfectly. And Tucker's a guy who's a corner guy now who you could be having a DH conversation about within a few years. And that's not where the Yankees need to go.
All right, now I want to talk about whether or not the Yankees could get both. And this segment sponsored by DraftKings. Back to 2008, no one expected the Yankees to get all three of Teixeira, CC Sabathia, and AJ Burnett. But you know what? It worked. And the Yankees could afford to get both Bellinger and Tucker. Now, if you listen to Martino, he thinks that Tucker's going to be a DH in a few years. And I kind of agree. And knowing that the Yankees already have a number of DHs, they got Stanton as the DH for the next couple of years. And then Judge is probably, honestly, going to take over as the DH. I'm not sure it's the greatest fit. But if they're willing to sacrifice a little bit of defense for a potentially game-changing offensive force, and I know his numbers were down a little bit this year, just a 266 average with 22 home runs, but he had some injuries, 841 OPS. This is a guy who could make a real difference. Now, you could sign Cody Bellinger and put him in center field and sign Kyle Tucker and put him in left field. Now, that displaces Jason Dominguez. Now, maybe the Yankees just see Dominguez as a fourth outfielder, somebody who doesn't need to play every day. But in the modern game, and the way the Yankees change up lineups all the time, he would still get a significant amount of playing time, and he doesn't hit lefties anyway. You could also trade Dominguez, which I'm not happy with. I don't want the Yankees to trade Dominguez. I believe there's a lot of untapped potential there. You could put Bellinger at first base, move Dominguez to center, and put Kyle Tucker in left field. Now, that weakens your outfield defense for sure, and it makes Ben Rice your everyday catcher, which displaces Austin Wells. So for the folks that are saying get both, I think that's uncharacteristic of Brian Cashman. I think that would create way too many moving pieces. But you know what? It would create a dynamic offense. They would be a little bit too left-handed for sure. I think that the most likely scenario is that they get one or the other. Now, I'm going to go to my conversation with Ryan Garcia, who basically makes the case for Kyle Tucker, doesn't talk a whole lot about, the future of him as a DH. He admits that basically his defense isn't great, but the offensive upside might be worth it. But first, I got to read the disclaimer. This segment brought to you by DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers. Get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Quick boilerplate, and then back with Ryan Garcia.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
With Cody Bellinger versus Kyle Tucker. I'll just give you the lay of the land, and then I want to get your advantages and disadvantages for each. So Bellinger had 5 WAR this year in his age 30 season. Kyle Tucker, 4.5 WAR in his age 28 season. Had a few more injuries than Bellinger, although Bellinger's had his share of injuries in the past. Bellinger arguably more productive in the cumulative stats, 29 home runs, 98 RBIs, but Tucker had a higher OPS. He had more stolen bases. So just looking at this from the 30,000-foot view, who are you seeing as the better player over the next 7-8 years? Who gets the bigger contract? And who would you prefer the Yankees went after?
So I'm going to go clean sweep with my answers to that. I'm going to go Kyle Tucker for me because I think what Kyle Tucker brings to the table offensively offsets what Cody Bellinger brings to the table defensively. I want to clarify by saying Kyle Tucker, I think in left field will be a below average defensive player for the New York Yankees. But the prospect of him coming over here and providing a 150 or 160 OPS plus playing at Yankee Stadium instead of Wrigley Field for 50% of his games is something I'm all in for. He has more walks than strikeouts over the last 2 years. He hits for a solid average. He has a good ability to hit fly balls to right field. And I think the top thing for me, and I kind of wanted to get your perspective on this too, is I think the Yankees in the postseason struggled with managing their taking their walks and limiting the strikeouts in the postseason specifically. It felt like against the Blue Jays, they couldn't read the splitters. When they fell early in games, they would press. They would be in scenarios where you see them swinging at pitches that this is a team that led the league in walks. Like those were pitches that this team didn't swing at in the regular season. Tucker, I know, doesn't have a storied playoff resume, but I do believe he has the plate discipline and the confidence in his plate discipline to take those walks when the opposing team is giving it to him. And that is what makes him such an attractive piece to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, you're definitely right about the Yankees not taking their walks during the postseason. And, I was watching the at-bats that, other teams are having against these splitters, watching the Mariners hit against, Gausman, for example, totally different approach, laying off that pitch. Bellinger, though, I really thought he was I'm kind of aligned with Joel Sherman on this one. So we're kind of at as Michael Kay would say, at loggerheads on this one. We're going to have a good old fashioned debate on this. I thought he was the perfect Yankee this year. I mean, the way he shortens up with 2 strikes, avoids strikeouts. I think back to that at bat he had against Aroldis Chapman. He had a couple of good at bats against Chapman there late in the season, one in the postseason. He had the power. He's done it in New York, which is always something that is not a guarantee when you bring in a new player, right? I don't think Tucker would fail as a Yankee. I think he's perfectly confident to do that. But then again, we've seen guys who we thought were going to, like Sonny Gray, for example, I thought had the swagger to come in and pitch great with the Yankees, and New York was maybe a little bit of a problem for him. In terms of age, I'm kind of aligned with you. Like, I would always tend to go for the younger player, especially when guys seem to be getting old a little bit quicker these days than they used to. I mean, the grind of 162, all the travel, it's I know that's always been a thing, but just the weight of all the stress that you got to carry these days. It's getting hotter. Like, it's getting hotter during the summers. That makes a difference too. And Bellinger has some injuries himself. So I think this is going to be interesting to see which way the Yankees go. Where do you see as the contract numbers for each, like ballpark? Because I could see Bellinger getting 175, 185, and I could see Tucker getting 350, 400. So there's going to be, even though his numbers were arguably not quite as good cumulatively, I think it's just a very interesting scenario.
Yeah, I actually fully agree with the contract ranges you provided. I think that's going to be in the ballpark of what these two players get. Now, I think the question for the Yankees is, how much do they believe in Kyle Tucker's defense in left field? How much do they believe in Cody Bellinger's defense in center field? And how much do they believe in the 2 young outfielders in their system and organization, in Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones? Regardless of which player they sign, they're pigeonholing themselves to only have one of those 2 players come up. I'd be shocked if they held Spencer Jones down there for 2 years, knowing he's already 24, until Stan's contract comes up. I'd be stunned if they kept Dominguez just to be a part-time player. So I think it's going to be such a fascinating conversation throughout the offseason. And while I've pounded the table for Kyle Tucker, I'm not going to be foolish enough to look at this and say these aren't 2 good baseball players who make your team better, and that there isn't obvious risks with both players. Kyle Tucker, in my opinion, is a star. He's not a superstar. There is a difference between a player you would get crazy for and a player you would just shell out a lot of money for. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think there's just a difference. Like, Juan Soto is a different kind of player than Kyle Tucker. That is a fact. So
there's a marketing aspect to Soto that I think you don't have with Tucker, probably.
That's the other thing. From a financial standpoint, if we wanted to kind of grade out which players were the most beneficial to bring in from an audience standpoint, Shohei Ohtani has the most pull in baseball. Aaron Judge is a fairly distant second because Ohtani has an international market, but there is a massive gap between Judge and anybody below that. Soto might be 3. You want to put Betts or Lindor in that conversation, sure, but Tucker isn't there. So he's not only not as good as a Juan Soto, he's not going to have the market pull. And from, let's say, Hal Steinbrenner's perspective, if you know the fan base's engagement with the team isn't going to increase or decrease dramatically based on the player you're bringing in, and if your front office people tell you that Bellinger is not too far off or as good as Tucker, you can understand where the organization's going to go from that point. It'll be interesting to see where they end up leaning in that regard.
So that is the state of things as we embark on what could be a consequential free agency. Kyle Tucker versus Cody Bellinger. Let me know in the comments who you prefer. Also, if you think the Yankees should get both, let me know what you should do with the rest of the roster here, because you're either going to have to trade Jason Dominguez or move Ben Rice and trade Austin Wells or relegate Austin Wells to the backup. It's going to be a lot of moving parts. I think the Yankees could do it. It would not shock me. I've seen stranger things. I mean, A-Rod walked in the door one day. That was crazy. Let me know in the comments what you want the Yankees to do, and I'll see you next time. Hey, while I've got you here, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Pinstripe Territory is the official Yankees podcast of the Foul Territory Network. We are home to the #1 most watched MLB postgame show on YouTube since 2021. We're here after every Yankees game and for reactions to all the best news and rumors during the offseason. Be a part of the show by calling into the voicemail 718-899-1068. Try to keep it clean for me. And if you ever miss us on YouTube, be sure and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Go ahead and rate us 5 stars. It'll help other people find the show. Thanks for watching. See ya.